Hello, hello, hello. Sure has been a minute since we spoke, but I hope everybody's good. I'm good. Um, I've had worse days and better days, but you know what? I'm so thankful to God that this is not one of those woeful days. It's actually a very good day. Cold, yes, but good. I got me on my butt an electric blanket. Feels really good. I hope you got one too. So yeah, this stuff is really good. Whoever invented it, yeah, you know. Anyways, hold up. Let's talk. Let's talk today about the trouble in our kids. Let's talk about the mistakes, the perpetual mistakes that we keep making from generation to generation. In some areas, these are being attended to, but in most parts of our society, the issues with our kids are not being addressed. Specifically, I would like to speak to the idea of training vis-a-vis disciplining our kids. As a community, we do have a challenge of growing our kids absently. We we bear a lot of kids sometimes, and we never get the time to spend with them so that we could instill life lessons as early as possible, so that we give them a chance to cope with this reckless and very heavy world. Because people, let's face it, this world is no baby joke. It will smash the hell out of you if you are not careful enough. We do have a tendency of thinking kids will be just fine, and then we bear them, we bring them into the world, so long as we give them food, shelter, and whatever else, or whatever transactional, or whatever uh, goods or commodities that we can afford them give. We're good, they're good, they got education, that's fine. So we're more concentrated about the things that we can provide physically more than the emotional investment that we need to make with them. So you find that our children, or us in this matter, we grew up having the education, having the food to eat, but not being able to grow emotionally and otherwise, so that we are strong individuals that can cope with the emotional struggles that are brought about by this life. So we struggle later on in life to cope with these things. We get into depression, we get into a lot of sicknesses, and we make a lot of foolish mistakes that will lead us into a lot of harm later on in life. And then we come up with the memes, obviously, and we start laughing about it, and it's all funny, umjolo this, this and that. It becomes very funny, which is okay. I guess it helps us to cope. But the problem is that there was not adequate investment in terms of growing the child emotionally at home. So the child cannot adapt well with the environment because they're kind of immature in a certain aspect in their lives. So we do have a challenge of doing that. So what you find is that we grew up with parents that did not invest enough time with us, but we're always there to kick our butts when we do wrong. Now, the question is, how do you discipline someone on something you've never taught them on? So it's more like us saying we're throwing it everything up in the wind, but when it comes to discipline according to what we consider right and wrong, we're just gonna come in and smash them down. That is not appropriate. What we are doing is that, or what was being done to us is that we were subjected to other teachers in this life, our friends, whether good or bad, education, whether good or bad, the society, the community. So the community raised us, education raised us, everybody else but our parents were raising us. They never really got the time to sit us down and teach us about this life and what we're going to be coming across and how ready we should be about it. It's starting to happen in certain sectors, but it's not something that we are fully engaging on as parents. So because of that, we are perpetually, letting this thing go on for the longest time, and it is affecting our social structure and our success as a people. We find old men who have been successful financial wise, but they're behaving like kids emotional wise. You find a lot of women that are so grown still doing girl stuff instead of acting like women. So what you find is that the mature men, when they're looking to marry a mature woman, they cannot find any, or a mature woman looking to marry a mature man, they cannot find, because he's become a blesser and he's all over the place, splashing a lot of money, doing things that are not supposed to be done. They are not grown or mature emotionally. They are just babies inside. They do things the other way. Then you get to have other races calling us monkeys and stuff because of the way we're behaving. We're not really in tune with the emotional struggles that are being brought about in this life. Come to think of it, even Adam and Eve, before they went out into the world, they had some sort of training in Eden. God put them through that training to say, you know what? He said in the beginning, you are going to dominate the earth. He didn't say you're going to dominate Eden only. He said the earth. So he put them through the training. And when they were ready, he set them out. He said, now you're good, go. So they went out there and they were good because he had trained them well and he had given them the grace that they needed to make it through this life. So that is the other important thing, is that we cannot make it in this life without God. This life is bearable if you have God. So that's just the point of juncture. But what I'm saying now is that we need to spend more time with our children. We need to find the time now as early as possible. So you need to teach your child as early as possible the ways that they're supposed to follow, financially, business-wise, spiritually, in every corner. Make sure that you capacitate yourself as a parent enough to say these things and teach them these things as early as possible. Break it down to their level, give it some sort of practical, and buy them the right stuff so that you train them well to be fit enough to tackle this world. We are already at a disadvantage because other races are doing it. Other races are teaching their kids as early as possible to be ahead actually of this life. But we as a community, the Black community most importantly, are so stuffed up with a lot of work. We're struggling. We're stuffed up with a lot of partying, with a lot of other social investments that are not as important. We never get to make the time to be with our children. The only time we get to breathe, we want to take it and use it for our special needs. So at the end of the day, the child is neglected emotionally. The child is neglected in terms of growing them to be mature children. And then we get the product that we get consistently. Every generation produces the same. So it's time for us to take it upon ourselves. Look into this. Give these kids the time that they need so that we school them before their evil friends do. We school them before the society does. We school them before the schools and the curriculum does, so that we give them a chance to not rebel against us. We give them a chance to see us as their friends and lean towards us for advice, not finding ourselves having to fight with our kids later on in life because they see us as the people that keep opposing them, that discipline them, or at least that hate them enough to discipline them. So we need to cultivate that as early as possible so that this perpetual problem that we're seeing can come to a stop. And then when the time is right, they will choose Jesus not because they're impoverished inside or because they have issues with their emotions and they have issues with the way life is going about, but they choose Jesus because they see Jesus for the benefit that he's bringing, for the goodness that he is, not because they have these needs that could be worked out, hovering over them all this time. So it's important for us to see things that way so that we give the community a chance to at least come through and make it in this life. So this is T signing out. This is just my point of view.